After my miscarriage, my mother-in-law brought me a care package. Inside was a baby onesie, a book about letting go, and a note that said, "Next time, try not to stress so much." My husband said, "She's just bad with emotions." I took the package, drove to her house, placed it gently on her porch, then filed for a no-contact order the same week. My name's Rachel. I'm 34. I live in Dayton, Ohio. I used to be married. I used to think I could handle anything, even grief. But then my world cracked open in a hospital room, and what poured out wasn't just sadness. It was rage. Real, cold, clean rage. It started with a pregnancy. My husband, Greg, and I had been trying for years. I was never one of those women who dreamed of having kids young. I waited, focused on my career, built a stable life. But when we finally started trying, nothing happened. We went through fertility testing, found out my hormones were a little off, and he had a low count. We did 2 rounds of IUI. Nothing. On the third, I got the call. The nurse said, "It's positive." Just like that. My whole body went numb. I couldn't breathe. Then I just started laughing and crying and talking nonsense into the phone. I made her repeat it twice. Greg came home early that day. We held each other on the floor. He was crying. I had never seen him cry before. We didn't tell anyone right away. I was scared. I joined all these forums with other women who'd gone through miscarriages, and I'd seen their heartbreak. So I kept quiet. But at 10 weeks, after 2 ultrasounds and a very clear heartbeat, we told our families. My mom cried. My sister screamed on the phone. Greg's mom, Janet? She frowned. "You know how much kids cost these days, right?" she said. "And you're not exactly spring chickens." That was the first thing out of her mouth. Not congratulations. Not a smile. I let it slide. That was her style. Always something cold dressed up as just being honest. Greg called it her quirk. I called it cruelty. Janet had never liked me much. She wasn't outright mean, just distant, passive-aggressive. She liked women who wore pearls and went to church. I wore jeans and worked in IT. I didn't make small talk well. I didn't laugh at her mean jokes about Greg's exes. I think she always saw me as someone who stole her son away from her. Still, I tried to keep peace. Invited her to dinner. Texted her pictures of the nursery setup. Even asked if she wanted to come to a doctor's appointment. She said, "No thanks. I've seen plenty of ultrasounds in my life." So I stopped asking. Then at 18 weeks, I started bleeding. It was late. I woke up feeling off. Went to pee and saw red. I remember staring at the toilet paper, frozen. Then I yelled for Greg. He rushed me to the ER. The nurse couldn't find a heartbeat. They brought in the OB. She confirmed it. Just like that, our baby girl was gone. They let me hold her. She was small, not quite fully formed, but she had tiny fingers and a little nose. I named her Isabel. We held a short service and had her cremated. I have her ashes in a little wooden box on my dresser. My mom flew in and took care of me. She did my laundry, cooked my meals, and just sat with me. Sometimes we didn't talk. Sometimes I screamed into her shoulder. She never once told me to move on. Greg was quiet. He cleaned. Took calls from work. I think he didn't know what to do with my sadness. 3 days after we got home, I got a package. It was a white box with a pink ribbon. No note on the outside. Just my name. I opened it and froze. Inside was a small pink onesie. It said, "Hello, world," in bright purple letters. Underneath was a book. Letting Go, Finding Peace After Loss. And then, taped to the inside lid of the box, was a card. It said, "Grief is a choice. I hope you choose not to dwell. Next time, try not to stress so much. The baby feels everything." Janet. I don't remember what happened after I read it. I know I sat at the table for hours. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just stared at it. When Greg came home, he saw me still sitting there. "What's this?" I asked. He walked over, looked inside, and his face turned red. "She didn't mean it like that," he said. I didn't say a word. She's just bad with emotions, he added. She's trying in her own way. I said, our baby died. I know, but that's how she deals with things. The next morning, I got up early, showered, put on clean clothes. I put the note and the onesie back inside the box, tied the ribbon, and drove to her house. I didn't say anything. I placed it gently on her porch. Then I went straight to the courthouse. I filed for a no-contact order. I told them everything. Showed the note. Described her pattern of manipulative and passive-aggressive behavior. Told them I wasn't safe emotionally around her and that she had caused significant distress while I was recovering from a traumatic event. The court asked for statements. My therapist submitted one. Said I had PTSD from the miscarriage and that the box had sent me into a breakdown. They called Janet in. She said she was just trying to help. She said I was making a scene. She said, I lost a baby too once. I said, then you should have known how cruel that box was. The judge granted a 5-year protection order. Greg didn't know how to respond. He said she didn't mean it. Maybe it came out wrong. I told him I couldn't be around anyone who defended what she did. That if he wanted to keep her in his life, he could go live with her. He swore he'd cut her off. We did couples therapy. We tried. But a few months later, I found out he'd been calling her behind my back, giving her updates on my therapy, my mental state, what I was saying. He betrayed me for the second time. I asked him to leave. We got divorced 6 months later. No drama. No fighting. Just quiet signatures and boxes packed in silence. I stayed in the house. I kept Isabel's ashes in our bedroom. And I never opened another package from anyone I didn't trust again. The divorce was supposed to be the end. I thought, finally, I could close the chapter on that part of my life. But people don't always stay in their corners. A few months after Greg moved out, I started getting strange messages. Not from him. From numbers I didn't know. Things like, you're tearing a family apart. Everyone grieves differently. You should be ashamed. It wasn't her fault your baby died. I blocked everyone. Changed my number. Took myself off social media. But somehow, they kept coming. At one point, someone mailed a typed letter to my work. It was unsigned, but I knew who it was from. Janet had rallied the troops. Her friends. Her church group. Her sister in Kentucky. They all thought I was some mentally unstable ex-daughter-in-law who weaponized grief to hurt her son and ruin a grandmother's life. One of the messages even mentioned my therapist by name, said she was feeding me lies to keep me angry. I reported it. The court added a clause to my order. Janet wasn't allowed to have anyone contact me on her behalf. That quieted things for a while. But the biggest twist came when Greg's lawyer contacted me. Apparently, Janet had been hospitalized. Stroke. Mild, but enough to require long-term care. Greg was her power of attorney. He wanted to talk. I ignored the message. Then he showed up at my job. I was coming back from lunch and saw him standing in the lobby, holding a manila envelope. I just need 5 minutes, he said. I didn't answer. I walked past him into my office. He left the envelope with the front desk. Inside was a letter. From Janet. Handwritten. Shaky pen strokes. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, just wanted me to know she never meant harm, and that grief makes people say strange things. There was also a photo. Isabel's ultrasound picture. One I'd never seen. She must have copied it during one of the appointments I invited her to. She wrote, I think of her too. I sat with that for a long time. And then I called my lawyer. Not to respond to her. Not to soften the order. But to file for something new. Because in the background of that ultrasound photo, barely visible, was me. Lying on the table. Eyes closed, belly exposed. She had taken a photo of me without permission. Not just a photo of the monitor. Of me. And that changed everything. I filed for a civil privacy violation. The court took it seriously. That picture proved something else was going on. That her obsession wasn't just grief. It was control. Janet was ruled mentally unfit to represent herself. Greg had to speak on her behalf.
He cried.
I didn't. This time, I brought everything. Every message, every letter, every file from my therapist, even my journal entries from the days after the package arrived. The judge ruled in my favor. Janet is now legally barred from contacting me, speaking my name in public forums, or sharing any images of me without consent. Her name is on a public record for emotional harassment. Greg lost power of attorney. It was given to a neutral elder care professional. I thought I would feel relief. But what I really felt was silence. For the first time in 2 years, no one was watching me. No one was whispering behind my back.
It was just me.
My little house.
My job.
My quiet. And Isabel. Always Isabel. Just when I thought everything had settled, another wave hit. Not from Greg. Not from Janet. This one came from someone I never expected. Greg's ex, Marissa. I barely knew her. I'd seen her once at a mutual friend's wedding before Greg and I got together. She was tall, loud, and wore red lipstick like it was armor. They had dated for a few years in their 20s, then split up quietly. He never said much about her except she and my mom got along way too well. Now, suddenly, she wanted to talk. She sent me a Facebook message from a new profile with no photo. Hi, Rachel. I know this is random, but I need to talk to you. It's about Janet.
And Greg.
It's important. I didn't respond right away, but something about it kept tugging at me. So I gave her a burner email I kept for spam and said she could write me there. What she sent knocked the breath out of me. She told me that back when she was dating Greg, she also got pregnant. By accident. She never told Greg, because Janet found out first. Apparently, Janet intercepted a voicemail Marissa left for Greg. He had some shared plan with his mom's number back then. In the voicemail, she hinted at the pregnancy. That night, Janet showed up at Marissa's apartment. According to Marissa, Janet came alone with a gift bag. Inside was a box of prenatal vitamins, a book called When It's Not the Right Time, and $500 in cash. She said, "You don't need to do this. You're too young. This will ruin your life and Greg's. Think about it." Marissa was shocked. She asked, "Does Greg know?" Janet replied, "Let's not involve him in something that might go away." A few days later, Marissa miscarried. She said it was early, maybe 6 weeks. But she never forgot Janet's words or how cold her eyes were when she handed her that bag. Marissa left Greg after that. Said she couldn't stomach the idea of marrying into that family. She ended her message with, "I didn't say anything before because I didn't think anyone would believe me. But when I heard about what she did to you after Isabel, I had to speak up. I'm so sorry." I sat with her email for hours. My whole body was shaking. All the pieces started clicking. The way Janet never got excited about my pregnancy. The fake concern, the gifts, the emotional pressure. She didn't want a grandchild. She wanted control. She wanted silence. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. He added it to the record. Even though it was too late to add charges, it gave context. It showed a pattern. I finally understood something I hadn't before. Janet didn't see me as a person grieving. She saw me as a mistake that hadn't gone away. And Greg? He had lived in that warped world for so long, he didn't even know it was poison. This wasn't just about grief anymore. This was about generational damage. Women being punished for not bending. Sons being trained to look away. People like me being left to pick up the wreckage. I didn't know what I was going to do next. But I knew one thing. I wasn't done yet. After I got Marissa's message, I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I wasn't going to yell or throw things. That's not my way. But I was going to make sure Janet's legacy, the one she was so proud of, would follow her. Every time she tried to smile her way into a new group of people, I wanted them to know. Every time she looked in the mirror, I wanted her to remember the women she tried to silence. And Greg, he wasn't off the hook either. So, I wrote it all down. Everything. Not for Reddit. Not at first. I wrote a formal, notarized victim statement. I included every note, every message, every time she tried to disguise cruelty as help. I added Marissa's statement, too, with her permission. Then I reached out to Janet's church. The one she bragged about. The one she volunteered at for years. I didn't ask for revenge. I just sent the packet to the board. I said, "This is who she really is. Do what you will." 3 weeks later, I heard she was removed from her volunteer position. They didn't tell her why. She thought it was about her health. It wasn't. Then I did something harder. I filed a lawsuit. A public one. Civil emotional abuse and harassment. Not for money. For a record. I didn't want $1 from her. I wanted her name on something permanent. Something searchable. Greg showed up to court, again. He didn't look at me. The judge read out the full list of actions Jana had taken, sending the package, organizing people to message me, spreading private medical information. The ruling was clear. Her actions caused undeniable psychological trauma during an active grief period, and her pattern of behavior was malicious under the guise of maternal concern. The court ordered that she pay $1 in damages. Just one. Symbolic. I framed that check. Put it in a shadow box with a copy of the court ruling. Greg emailed me once after that. Just one line. "I'm sorry for not protecting you. I see it now." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. A few months later, I packed up Isabel's things. The brown boots. The bracelet. The ultrasound. I buried them in a small patch under the maple tree in the backyard. Just me and the soft breeze.
No priest.
No music. Just the sound of dirt falling over the past. It wasn't closure, but it was a line. A deep one. I don't know what Janet does now. I don't care. Greg moved to Indiana. I see a therapist twice a month.
I go on walks.
I talk to Marissa sometimes. We aren't friends, not exactly, but we understand each other in a way most people never will. And one day, maybe I'll try again. Maybe not. But here's what I know. I didn't let her break me. I didn't scream or beg. I took her care package. I placed it on her porch like a tombstone. And I buried her power over me right beside it. Forever.